Dave from Vienna, Austria. Another international listener here. Since you touched on the decline of business following WrestleMania X7 a few weeks ago, factors being the lack of competition, as well as the Austin turn, combined with the lack of credible babyfaces, I want to know which of these three hypothetical scenarios would have had the best chance of perpetuating the wrestling boom in your opinion. Mind you, all of them would take place immediately after the Rock-Steve Austin steel cage match on Raw the night after WrestleMania 17, which ended with The Rock being beaten down by Stone Cold, Triple H, and Vince McMahon. So here are the three scenarios that Dave is pitching here. Number one, the NWO, Hogan, Hall, and Nash, invade as an equilibrium to the two-man power trip, so they would have been invading basically a year earlier than they did. And I take it they would have been the babyfaces. Option two, Goldberg debuts. So that would be, let's see. Well, if Goldberg would have debuted after WrestleMania 17, I mean, that's a full 2 years, right, before he actually debuted in WWE. And option three, Bret Hart returns to settle his score with Vince McMahon and rekindle his feud with Steve Austin. I think any one of those three scenarios would have done great business. I think the Austin turn was going to hurt them no matter what. But I've said before, they really screwed themselves by doing that, because Rock was leaving right after WrestleMania. They had to know that he was leaving for a few months to go film, one of those Scorpion King movies, I think it was, maybe the first one that he did. But they had to know he was leaving. And yet they went and I know Austin vouched for it, so they went and they turned Stone Cold heel. And so all of a sudden, in one fell swoop, you have now lost your two biggest babyfaces in Stone Cold and The Rock. And the original plan, I believe the original plan was for Triple H to turn babyface after he lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania that year. He turned babyface and he would be the one to go chase Stone Cold for the championship. Triple H vetoed the idea. He didn't like that idea because he probably knew that in the end he was going to lose to Austin, probably didn't want to lose to him, and he opted, hey, I know what, let's team up. I'll be partners with Stone Cold. I'll be on the same level with him. And so they did, and what that did was it left them with Kane and The Undertaker as their two top babyfaces. And then after that, it was Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. Great wrestlers. I don't know that you would be building around them as the two top babyfaces in your company. Then Triple H got hurt. Then they bungled the invasion angle. It was one misstep after another. If Austin turns, but all of those other things don't happen, you plug in one of these scenarios that he's pitching here, and I think they're a hell of a lot better off. Like, I wouldn't go with the NWO in that spot, because that just would make them baby faces, and the NWO invading as baby faces to me just doesn't work at all. Bringing Goldberg in as the top baby face to go through Triple H, let's say, on his way to the big dream match with Stone Cold for the championship, maybe it's SummerSlam that year, that would have been huge. That would have been huge. That match would have done tremendous business. Would Goldberg coming in as the top face have been better for business than Bret Hart coming back as the top babyface and getting revenge on Vince McMahon? Probably. Probably, because Goldberg was a bigger star at his peak in WCW than Bret Hart ever was in WWE. And I say that as a big Bret Hart mark. I mean, he didn't have as long on top as Bret had, but Goldberg had a popularity, I mean, truly, that was matched only by Stone Cold at that time. Bret Hart never had that. But I can sit here, as a Bret fan with a straight face and say that, Goldberg was more popular and meant more to ratings and buy rates and such than Bret Hart did. If I'm the promoter and I'm looking for another, call it a boom, call it whatever you want, I bring in Goldberg and have him murdering dudes as he goes through Triple H to get to Stone Cold. If I'm a fan, now that's my promoter hat. As a fan, me personally, I would have wanted Bret to come back because he never should have left to begin with. He had no business being in WCW. They had no idea what to do with him. And the idea of him coming back for revenge on Vince, Yeah, look, maybe have it where Linda McMahon, it comes out that Linda McMahon signed Bret to a deal to come back as a way to spite her husband. This would have been perfect timing. This was right after WrestleMania, where Linda was in that catatonic state. And then she woke up and she kicked her husband in the dick. So the timing would have made sense. Linda signs Bret to come back to the company again, without her husband even knowing. He's going to come back and make Vince's life a living hell, and then rekindle his feud with Stone Cold for the championship. Bret and Stone Cold had some tremendous matches together. So if Bret's healthy and he comes back to the company, the idea of him and Austin having a couple more pay-per-view matches, hey, sign me up. But if I'm answering your question from a business perspective, it's door number 2. I think you got to go with the Goldberg option.